Good morning and welcome to PowerTranz live show where we cover all things commerce in the Caribbean. Our guests join us from all over the world and generously share their expertise, knowledge, and insight into payments and the digital world and how we operate within it. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and if you're joining us from LinkedIn, don't forget to like and follow our page to continue seeing content that will help you grow your business online. Today, we're discussing how to run your Caribbean shop smarter with Tillmate. I'm joined by Eldred Garcia. He is the Senior Vice President, Business and Partner Development at PowerTranz, as well as, of course, our star of the show today, Franz Weathers, founder of Tillmate. How are you guys today?
Very well, thank you.
Good morning, Pauline. Good morning, friends. Great to be here.
All right, so the audio is working well, and a lot of people think 60 minutes is a long time, but when it comes to the payment section in our lives and commerce in general, that is not enough time. So we're going to get straight into it. So for those who are watching this and may not know Franz, for Caribbean business owners who are hearing about Tillmate for the first time, what exactly is it and why was it built specifically for our region?
Well, again, thanks for having me. Of course, I'm a Jamaican entrepreneur. I love technology. My background is really in working in the e-commerce sector, trying to work with stores, and we realized many of them didn't use digital tools. They were largely on pen and paper. So essentially what Tillmate is, it's primarily point of sale software, inventory management, staff management. Essentially, it's a whole retail operating system for small businesses. So they can upload their inventory, their staff, their expenses, their cashiers can use the point of sale. And again, it's entirely software. It works on your tablet. If you're on the go as a store owner, you can have the app on your phone. You can see what's going on multiple locations. So essentially, it brings your whole retail physical operation into the cloud and enables you to manage it more efficiently.
Thanks for that, Franz. And for those who are watching this on a replay, not to worry, we will go through the features and we will look at this process because if you've joined us previously, you know this is a learning live show. So, Eldred, when it comes to entrepreneurs across Jamaica, Trinidad, Tobago, the Caribbean, Barbados, they're typing how to start an online store in Google. I actually checked. So from your perspective, when we see PowerTranz and Tillmate integration, how does it remove barriers that merchants face when trying to get into e-commerce, like as a shop online?
Well, great question, Pauline. And one of the things that Franz was mentioning is what made us take a real good look at Tillmate. As you know, we've been doing business in the Caribbean and in Central America for over 25 years. And it is a Caribbean-based Caribbean for the region solution. And when we saw Tillmate developing this solution for the Caribbean, specifically for the Caribbean, it was a natural fit. Why? They baked us into their solution from the get-go. We are part of their payment ecosystem. And when you sign up for Tillmate, there's not a lot of heavy lifting from our side. It's already integrated. All you need to have is a financial relationship with one of the local banks in whatever country you're operating, whether it's in Jamaica or in Trinidad or in Barbados. And because we work in 24 of the markets of the Caribbean and Central America, it's very easy to get started with Tillmate and start taking payments right away.
Thank you so much for that, Eldred. So it's interesting because, as someone from the Caribbean and going to the market, you see I have a herbs man, and that's the natural herbs like shadow benny, cilantro, where they have a piece of paper every time something is sold, they write it down. And this is very common for Caribbean small and medium businesses because exercise books go beyond just secondary school and primary school when it comes to manually tracking your cash. So we want to ask Franz, what's the real cost of not going digital in 2026?
Well, the real cost, I think, is being locked out of financial services. because being an entrepreneur myself, when you speak to the average business owner, 9.5 out of 10 of them will tell you the same thing. When you ask, what's the number one problem you're facing? And it's always, oh, money, lack of capital. And, some businesses are doing millions of dollars. Even the herbsman might be doing tons of money, tons of revenue, everyday sales. But if it's on pen and paper, it's hard for a bank to underwrite a loan or insurance or, so for them to grow, buy out their competitor, or have higher staff, it's next to impossible without financial services. And a lot of what we're seeing is people acquiring businesses. So people are more people are getting into entrepreneurship, and instead of starting a business, they're looking to buy. But it's hard to buy when you have 7 years of paper all over the place. So that's the number one reason we see is the pull we see with small businesses like the corner shop or the herbsman digitizing their business.
That's so interesting because, it's something that maybe you've inherited, because I've seen a lot of people with their kids, on a Saturday in the market with, they would have inherited that business and the systems within it. And then let's shift over to the online space, because a huge chunk of Caribbean commerce happens on Instagram DMs, WhatsApp, and businesses have created this formal storefront. So Eldred, how does PowerTranz give these informal sellers a credible, payment-ready online presence without needing to be tech experts?
Well, that's a great question. So one of the things that, Franz and I have talked about a number of different times is that we have transactional history in our system. So what that means is that we serve as an independent tamper-proof, verification of revenue for these financial conversations, right? One of the challenges that we've seen for small operators in the Caribbean is trying to grow or expand their business. If they don't have a relationship with a financial institution, it's really difficult to walk into a bank and ask for a loan, either to maintain their business, grow their business. And this partnership with Tillmate does a number of different things. Obviously, it allows the small merchant to start accepting credit card payments in a very easy way, very low tech lift, right? So we're talking about leveraging what, like Franz said, a simple tablet, displaying a QR code and having the customer be able to pay right on their phone. So no additional hardware, the cost associated with that, or the headaches of the logistics of getting that kind of device into the merchant. But more importantly, because now we have transactional data, and it's reliable transactional data, right? It's a third party. PowerTranz has the information, so when the customer goes to a bank, they can pull reports, transactional reports, and go to the bank and demonstrate and show to the financial institution that they have credit worthiness in order to apply for loans. So it's we're building more than just the ability to take payments. We're building a credit infrastructure for the entire business class that has been systematically excluded from formal finance.
It's so interesting because you mentioned the QR code payments, which is something, guys, you don't want to miss, because you're going to have a how-to session with Franz on Tillmate. These are things that feel so far away, but we are actually showcasing that is real, and you can access this information and ability to have these tools now. So, Franz, can you walk us through what a typical Caribbean shop owner day would look like before and after using Tillmate?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm still learning a lot about, how they're using Tillmate, because they're telling me. So on opening your shop, the first thing you do is log into Tillmate as the shop owner. You can look at the previous day's sales reports. One of the things I'm understanding is some shop owners, depending on the size, they like to take stock at the beginning of the opening of the shop. So if it's 8 a.m., They look at what the system is saying. So if you have 10 cases of red stripe, for example, well, let's say you bought 100 cases of red stripe yesterday and you sold 10. You'll check in the system, you'll see that there's 90 left. So they'll look in, in their storeroom, check if there's actually 90. And then at the end of the day, in terms of stock taking, they would check again in terms of what was sold and what's there. And then they would cross-reference that with who was logged into the system. So one of the main reasons we're seeing shop owners use Tillmate is, losing inventory and theft and stuff like that. So they like to match inventory based on who logged into the system. So again, the second thing that would happen is the cashiers, the staff, everyone would log into the system. All of their login is actually timestamped, so you can see who logged in, went to the system, who did what in the system, and essentially starting the day. It's essentially, it almost runs itself, because when the sales come through, everything is automatically tracked. What we recommend to the store owners, of course, is to add everything in it. Meaning if somebody came and painted the shop, add that under expenses. If you got light bill, if you got the rent, add that as well. If there's a mistake made by the cashier or something, you'll be able to see it live. If you're taking on stock, like the truck came from Grace Kennedy or something, you're able to automatically put that into the system. So essentially, it's just logging every single thing into the system, and the point of sale acts as the input of customers' sales that automatically logs.
Wow, that sounds like an amazing feature, especially if you're coming from, writing stuff down on a pen and paper. And for those who are watching this in other parts of Caribbean, so red stripe would be equivalent of Banks or Carib, you know what I mean? So I see Lisa is joining us from LinkedIn. I would like to just highlight, there's this question, I think this is for you, Franz. Loving that feature of being able to pull transaction history. Not sure if you said it, but I need to get the relevant fee structure on your processing time. Please indicate if the customer has to be on Tillmate as well, as I have run into the requirement with another payment solution. So you want to give us a quick response on that, Franz?
Yeah, absolutely. So the fees, we have 3 tiers. It starts at $39 per month. This is for 1 location and 2 users. It goes up to $99 and $299 based on how many users you have and locations. Secondly, it's entirely software, so you could go to the website, sign up. You get 7 days free, no card required, so you have a whole 7 days to log in and look around. And no, the customer does not have to be in Tillmate. The customer actually never interacts with Tillmate. Just like somebody picking stuff off your shelf, if it's a physical store, the cashier is the only one, scanning those items, whether they're using the QR code, the barcode scanners, or the camera on the tablet. They scan the barcodes, they accept payment. Again, we have PowerTranz integrated. So that's the closest they come, which is scanning the barcode, the QR code on the screen, and then paying, or tapping the card on the tablet based on if that's supported. And that's it. However, the cashiers can also add the customers to the system at the point of sale. Of course, every customer is anonymous if they don't give you their information, but the cashier can simply press that little plus button and add the customer. So the next time they come, they simply search for that customer. So now you have like a CRM, so you can have a full history of that customer. You can start a loyalty program. And other than that, there is a invoicing feature where you can actually send the customer a link. So if somebody calls in and say, hey, I'm coming in at 1 o'clock to pick this up, but I want to pay now, you can actually do a manual sale and put their email in. They get a link and they pay the same way they would scan the QR code. They just click on that link, pay, it auto logs as a sale, and you're gone. So the customer never actually interacts with the system. It's all internal, admin, cashier, and so on.
Great. Thank you so much for, sorry, go ahead.
No, there's a question about processing time, but I'm not sure what that means.
Okay, no worries. So Lisa, thank you so much for sharing that question with us. If you can stick around to the end of the live show, we will actually have a live demo so you can see how it works. So we're going to go on a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to answer questions like, what does the word omni-channel even mean? We'll be right back. And welcome back. Thank you so much for joining the PowerTranz live show, where we cover all things e-commerce with guests joining us from all over the world to share their knowledge on this digital world that we all are part of. You're not going to find these conversations anywhere else. Trust me, I searched the internet. So don't forget to like and follow our page on YouTube so you don't miss a single live show. Be sure to give us a comment if you have any questions during this live show. We'll ensure to respond to them. And even if you're watching us on the replay, we will definitely respond to your questions. Today, we're talking about how to run your Caribbean shop smarter with Tillmate. We are joined by Eldred. He is from PowerTranz, as well as Franz. He is from Tillmate, which we have so much to learn from today. So we're going to bring them back into the session. And just before the break, we were discussing, some of the features on Tillmate, but I want to have a broader conversation around this terminology called omni-channel. It's a bit of a buzzword, and there's so many different buzzwords to keep track of, but we're going to stick in the commerce space. And when it comes to the omni-channel, what does it actually mean for a merchant in Bridgetown, in Kingston, in Port of Spain? Eldred, give us some insight as to how PowerTranz enables a customer to shop online, pay securely, and pick up in store.
Thanks, Pauline. Well, omni-channel is just a fancy word to describe a merchant that operates basically wherever the customer is at, whether the customer is in a physical location or the customer is remote in their home and try to make a purchase. If it's a physical transaction with a card is present, or whether you're paying with a QR code. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But omni-channel, again, is just a fancy word of saying that the merchant can now interact with a customer and take payments wherever the customer is at. So let me give you an idea. A customer walks in and goes to the store, picks up an item, walks up to the register. With Tillmate, you can scan the item, and it'll tell you that the item is $5, and they'll hit pay. It'll display a QR code. The customer, as previously stated by Franz, does not have to have the Tillmate application or anything. They simply scan the barcode, and the same payment page that customer would have seen if they were visiting a website is what they're going to see on their phone. They're going to scan the QR code, and it's going to have a payment page. They're going to enter their credit card information on their own phone, and they're going to complete the transaction. Same customer in a different scenario is calling in, like Franz had mentioned earlier, and says, I want to place an order, and I'm going to go pick it up. The merchant can say, okay, what do you want to order? Once the order is complete, can send that customer a payment link to their phone in their house. They'll receive that payment link, and when they click on that payment link, the same payment page that they saw if they were in the physical world scanning the QR is going to show up on their phone in their house. They complete the transaction. Tillmate receives a confirmation of that payment. It deducts that inventory from their store, and then the merchant can prepare that order. So when the customer comes in later to pick it up, it's ready to go. The payment is already complete. So omni-channel, again, is having a merchant be able to interact with that merchant, with that customer, wherever they are at, and be able to take payments in whatever environment they're in. Make sense?
Sure does. And, in this world where literally our phones are part of our body now because it's part of our hands, we have no choice as business owners to be where the customer is. So before this live show, I did some research on merchants in places like Trinidad and Jamaica. And they're searching for things online like best point of sale systems for small businesses, and I would like to find out, how does Tillmate stack up against the more popular ones, in terms of the states, because we see all these solutions, but they don't necessarily, and I've experienced this, they don't fit our Caribbean market. So let's look at how Tillmate stacks up against companies like Squarespace and Shopify when it comes to the Caribbean merchants.
Okay, well, I think we're the best currently. The funny thing is, Eldred actually introduced me to a merchant in the Bahamas. He works with several hospitality companies, restaurants, and he simply just loved Tillmate. One of the things he said was most merchants there are defaulting to US-based systems like Square, where they have to open a US company, a US bank account just to have payments, and then they have to send those payments from the US back home, which is expensive and timely, just to use the system because it's not built for us. And even if something goes wrong outside of payments, you're calling a US company that try their best to help you, but can't really. And then outside of the US ones, we have, I would say the uh, more popular ones like, a cash register express and stuff like that, which was more CD based, it's not cloud based. There's a merchant just 2 weeks ago that couldn't pay taxes because their POS crashed and there was nothing in the cloud. So again, she moved from pen and paper. So everything is in the computer, but it wasn't in the cloud because this is a point of sale that was local, sitting local. So in terms of our user experience, we've been told it's world class in terms of how it looks, how it feels, how it flows. And of course, with a partner like PowerTranz, it enables your money to flow. I think that's what Lisa was asking in the comments in terms of processing time. I believe it's next day. If you accept a payment today, it should be in your account tomorrow, if not the next day, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not long. If it's a US-based system, it may take a week or more because it may take a day or two to hit your US account. Then it may take another 2 or 3 days if you try to get that money out here in your local account just to use it, or longer. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, Franz,
Well,
let me add
go
something.
ahead.
It's important. Sorry, Pauline. I think this is important. We are a local payment processor. We're not a U.S. payment processor. We're here for the Caribbean, which means that we work with local banks, local currency, and support local products. The Tillmate, Franz may have mentioned it before, has fully integrated something that is really local, which is Digicel and Flow top-ups. Being able to go into a store and top up a local service provider is huge. Imagine being able to do these transactions in addition to everything else that you're doing. Now you're processing maybe 50 transactions a day versus 10. That gives a perception of stability for financial institutions where you will later go in and request a business loan. So again, this solution is built in the region for the region. This is not a U.S. solution trying to fit into our markets and trying to support things that it just can't. This is one of the things that it's important. It's not only we're processing local currency, but like Franz says, the settlement of those funds after the transaction is done is very quick compared to a U.S. solution that takes significantly longer.
Yes, and I imagine the merchants who are watching this also are thinking about currency and losing out on the exchange rate, which is super important. And just going to shout out to Lisa. I think we answered your question as it relates to the cash out. So let us know in the comments, Lisa, if we are on the right path. So I'm going to head back to Franz and we're going to get a little exclusive insight here on Tillmate. So could you walk us through a bit on your AI snap and sync feature? Because AI in general is such a trending and buzzword, but we all want to know how it's going to make our life easier. So how does taking one photo replace hours of manual inventory entry?
Well, yeah, it's thanks for asking, and this is one of the most exciting features we're working on, because in building a software only product in the age of AI and all the buzz about AI, we were like, oh, we have to put AI in this somehow. Let's put AI. Is it a chatbot? Is it this? Is it that? But we decided to hold off until we found the most useful way to integrate AI. And since launching, what we're seeing with retailers is 95% of the work in getting up and going with Tillmate is their inventory. 95%. What that means is I personally went to a local store and all of their inventory. This is an electronics store making literally millions of dollars a month because an iPhone is $1,000 or more, and they're selling 2, 3, 4 a week or more, sometimes that in a day. And all their inventory was in a book. So they were like, I don't know if I can use Tillmate because I'm going to have to type this out and all of this stuff. And I'm like, oh no. So right in front of them, I took pictures of the book and I went into an AI model, and within seconds, it organized everything, the price, the categories, the names, everything. And I'm like, wait a minute, this should be in the system. So what we're building now and we're testing with a few retailers is Snap and Sync. What that means is you can literally download Tillmate on your tablet, and you can go to the inventory part and you can actually take pictures of your book, as in if you wrote down the inventory. If you have, of course, an Excel sheet online, you can also import that. But the Snap and Sync is specifically for if your inventory is not digitized. So even if you have like a supermarket where inventory is on the shelf, as you know now, many stores are putting the price on the actual shelf, not like sticking it on the product. So once the camera takes the products and the price on the shelf, you can upload that picture. The AI will understand it, automatically organize it, type it out, and import it in your system. So all you have to do now is just go through and double check, opposed to typing out everything. So this AI feature really solves 95% of what would take a retailer days to type out inventory and get frustrated. The other 5% is really adding a staff member, which is easy. You're just adding their name, their email, they get an email, they click on it, they create their account, and they're up and running. So that's what our first AI feature is doing.
Wow, it sounds like you guys did a great job of ensuring that AI was useful, because I've seen a lot of people just was like, let's just throw that in, let's see how it works. We're definitely going to go into a quick demo, but before we do that, I want to ask a general question to Eldred, because a lot of businesses say we don't accept cards, and what does that mean for a Caribbean business, especially when it comes to where the customer's at, which I mentioned before, on their phones, as well as, a lot of people think that it's expensive and they can't really explore receiving payments online. What say you, Eldred?
Well, Pauline, I'll give you a quick story, and then I'll tell you how easy it is. When I was recently in the Bahamas near the straw market, I did go around and talk to a lot of the merchants as we start deploying our, if you will, paradigm shift in the payments acceptance world, where we move away from traditional hardware to software, which is what we're talking about. And one of their biggest complaint is we only take cash because of the cost of hardware, the logistic nightmare, and the maintenance of having these different pieces of hardware that are constantly changing. We have to maintain them and whatnot. What it represents to them is, one, lost sales. Somebody walks in and they only have a card because they're a tourist and they just got off a ship and they don't want to be carrying cash. They've lost a sale. If they carry a limited amount of cash because they will want to reduce the amount of risk associated with carrying cash, then they lose partial sales. So if they only have $10 and they want to buy two things and both things cost 15, they're going to have to pick between one or the other. So there's a definite loss of opportunities in sale. To accept cash nowadays is significantly easier. Before, you had to think about the terminals, the integration, the cost, the logistics of getting a piece of plastic, a legacy piece of plastic into your business and putting it on the desktop for a customer to use it whenever they did. Now, we no longer need that. Franz has mentioned a couple of times a tablet. It could be something as fancy as a Samsung tablet or a Sumni tablet, or it can be a very simple tablet. It's an operating system. Like Franz says, the solution is software, and it is completely software, including the payment portion. So when you hit pay, that the merchant hit pays, what it displays on the user interface on the tablet is a QR code. There's no additional hardware. The customer simply uses their phone to scan the QR and make a payment right on their phone. It is extremely easy today to start accepting payments with a solution like this.
Well, there's hope for all merchants out there in the Caribbean. Guys, we're literally telling you what to do. So not to worry, what we're going to do, because we've been speaking about this for quite some time, and we live in a world where we can't just tell you, we have to show you. So let's see how this solution works in real time. We're going to go on a quick break. Well, we're actually going to give you a real-time look at Tillmate. Let us know in the comments, Lisa. I saw you had a few questions. I think this demo is going to answer them all. So we'll be right back after this.
Hi, I'm Franz, founder of Tillmate, Jamaican entrepreneur. We are upgrading small shops across the region by bringing them from pen and paper to digitized operations. This is Tillmate. Upon logging in, the first thing a user will see is the dashboard, which shows them all of their sales, their data, their stock count, sales summary, all of the data, whether it's 7 days, month, or up to a year, across all of their locations. Of course, this is our live WhatsApp community for support. So the first thing a user would do in setting up their account is adding products. So they would come over here and look at product list. It already has some products here. So you would simply select on add product. From here you can add a product name, for example, the code, the picture, the category in terms of what type of product it is, the brand, product unit, and so on. So the price, the cost, wholesale, everything. Or you can do a bulk import by simply downloading our template or CSV template, adding your information, and then simply importing that. So after you've added all of your products and your stock and your quantity alerts and expiration alerts, you simply come over to staff. Of course, if you're a shop, you will most likely have cashiers. So this is the first place to add your employees. As you can see, there's some already added here. So you simply click on add employee. You add their photograph, their name, address, phone, everything. And you click here, which is, add a user, their username, password. What they'll get is an email. So that email allows them to click on a link and access their account by setting their own password. What that allows is every action on the account, this user will be tagged to it. So if they added a product, a sale, deleted a product, anything, they will be listed as the person that did that. We have other tools over here, but the main piece is this, point of sale. So after you've added a cashier, when they log in, this is the interface they see. They don't actually see the dashboard that we just came from. They only see this based on their role, of course. These would be your featured items, whatever you've added. These can easily be selected here. They pop up over here for sale. You can add a markup, you can add a note, or you can scan the barcode. Once the cursor is here and you scan the barcode, items will automatically pop up over here. Of course, you can remove it, you can increase quantity, add a coupon, and so on. Over here is where you would select payment. So you can select cash. If you're receiving a cash, you can put the cash amount. For example, you're receiving, let's say 15, so you're putting 15,000. Complete order. Of course, you will see the change, which is 2,995. You can either print the receipt. So your printer would already be attached to whatever device you're using, whether it's a tablet, a computer, your phone, the receipt would be printed. Or you can simply email the receipt if you're paper free, right? And then you go to new order, which means everything starts fresh. Or if you're integrated with PowerTranz, of course, which is what we recommend, of course, you can select your offline terminal. So if you're tapping a card on like an offline terminal, you select this. This just tells the system that you use your offline terminal. Or if you're integrated with PowerTranz, this is where the customer can simply scan the QR code, pay on their phone, and as soon as that payment is made, this whole thing refreshes and the same screen pops up. Print receipt or email receipt or new order. So that's the countdown for them to scan and pay. Again, once they pay, it's automatic. It just refreshes and the payment is locked. Once the sale goes through the system, this is where you'll see everything. As you see, it says today's sales because this is the sale we just did. So the more sales we do, this would, of course, increase at the end of the day, right? And all admins can see the sale list. So no matter where you are, the shop owner, anyone can actually come here and see the full sale. They can see, the location, the name of the cashier, the name of the customer, if a customer's name was added. So all customers are automatically called John Doe. So if a customer's name is added, you'll see them here, the cashier, location, completed sale, paid, and so on. So many other features, of course, but we'll touch on one last one, which is reports. So once you've added everything from sales, your staff, payroll, expenses, everything, you get rich reports over here. So you can see a sales report chart based on location, date, how much was spent. You can get a summary report here, which is basically a report of everything across the system. You can even export reports and location-based supplier, customer reports, everything. And just to touch on one last feature, customers. Cashiers can actually add customers at the point of sale and all of them will show up here. So all orders, all customers will have like a total history based on how much they've spent, reward points, discounts, and everything. In summary, that's Tillmate.
And welcome back to PowerTranz Live Show, where we cover all things e-commerce, where guests join us from across the world to share their knowledge and expertise on the digital world that we live in. So if you just missed what just happened, how could you? There is a whole how-to session, but not to worry. We will be uploading it on YouTube, so make sure to follow us to ensure that you get notified so you can learn how to use Tillmate. Today, we're discussing how to run your Caribbean shop smarter with Tillmate, and we're joined by Eldred Garcia from PowerTranz and Franz Weathers from Tillmate. So we're going to bring them back in. I believe, again, if you missed any of the how-to session and if that ran too fast for you, we will be uploading it to YouTube, as well as this live show will be available for replay. So you can just rewind and fast forward as you wish. So thank you so much, Franz, for doing that. That was a great how-to session for anyone who is uncertain of what to do when it comes to setting up their store on Tillmate. So when it comes to the integration, Franz had mentioned PowerTranz and integrating with PowerTranz. No bias here, guys, but of you. When it comes to PowerTranz who've supported 24 regional markets, what does a merchant in, let's say, Jamaica or Barbados or Bahamas, because we are a lot of different islands across the Caribbean, how can these merchants accept payments seamlessly in the Caribbean for customers to be able to pay easily? So, Eldred, give us some insight.
Well, Pauline, it's like I mentioned previously, it's pretty easy from the perspective of that we cover all of the Caribbean and Central America, which essentially means that we work with, for the most part, every financial institution, every bank across the Caribbean. So whether you're in Jamaica or in Trinidad or in Barbados, and you work with one of the local banks there, you will have a merchant ID. You have a merchant relationship with that bank, and to start taking payments with the Tillmate solution, you essentially tell your bank that you want a merchant ID, a MID, to start taking payments, and it's called e-commerce MID or e-commerce merchant because you're going to be using the QR. It's fairly straightforward. They're going to provide you a merchant setup sheet or a VAR sheet, which is what we use to log you or board you into our system. That VAR sheet, if you will, that merchant setup sheet, essentially has information about you, the merchant, right? It basically has information about, if you will, your virtual address. So when you take payments, we know that the authorization request for a transaction belongs to this particular merchant. We go out, we get an authorization, and we return the authorization response back to the merchant, letting them know that it was approved, and they can go ahead and proceed dispersing the products or the services. And at the same time, we provide all the necessary information based on that transaction, typically the amount that is going to get deposited into that merchant's account. So again, whether you're in Trinidad or Jamaica or Barbados, the first thing you need to do is walk into your bank and tell them that you want a merchant ID for e-commerce, that you want to start taking payments with Tillmate for your small shop, and the rest of it, we take care of it for you.
Thank you so much, Eldred. And when Franz did the demo, there was a section with the QR code. I actually tested it out, so it took me to a landing page. So, Franz, in your experience in speaking with the merchants across Jamaica, how big of a deal is this for merchants? Because QR codes, traditionally, you just go to a website, right? It's part of a marketing conversation. But now you're saying, hey, you can use this for payments.
Yes, and it's been a big deal. One of the first reasons, one of the first things we heard from a merchant was actually a pharmacy, because what happened was it was hard for them to reconcile certain promotions and stuff they were doing during the day. Meaning, if they make a sale at the point of sale and then they tap your card or they accept cash, they have to simply go in the system at the end of the day along with the receipts and kind of match what was sold with what. And especially if there's a promotion and discounts, they not only have to match what was sold with what was paid, but what the discounts were on which items and so on. So by having the QR code, it automatic, and having the customers use the QR code, which is digital payments, of course, it automatically syncs with the products that were purchased, what was paid, what time it was paid, and if the customer is allowing you to add them to the system, even the name of the customer, which adds to promotion. So at the end of the day, there was not much work to do. It's just an export to see exactly that, 25 customers paid, here are their names, here's the discount they got, here's the time they ordered, here's how much they paid, here's all the products they bought. So it made everything much simpler. It saved time, and eventually it saved money.
So it's interesting because for a lot of folks, this is a bit overwhelming, right? So this is a lot of information. If you're going back from, hey, I'm writing these things down in a book and I'm taking cash, this is a question we get a lot on this show, and I want to preempt the question because people are like, what's PowerTranz? What a payment gateway? What's Tillmate? So there's all these different things. So I want Eldred to break it down for the common man being me. We're talking about the solution, which is Tillmate, but the payment engine is PowerTranz. So give us some insight from a perspective as a business owner, what that really means in the most layman of things.
Thank you, Pauline. So look at PowerTranz as basically the engine that allows you to take credit card payments, right? We capture the credit card information at the merchant site or with the customer, and we go ahead and process that transaction. We take that transaction information, the credit card information, we go get an authorization from Visa or MasterCard or American Express. We come back with the authorization, and at night, you'll get the funds. The PowerTranz is the engine to take payments. So what we've done is that we've looked out in the market and we said, technology is moving rather quickly. The development of QR payments, of artificial intelligence, of software-based solutions are moving very quickly. And the best way that we can provide these wonderful solutions in the market is that we partner up with best of breed partners like Tillmate. So when we reach out to Tillmate and said, you have a wonderful solution in a much needed market, right? So small and medium businesses that have inventory currently don't have a software solution to manage all of this stuff that they do all day in a useful way that they can later leverage it and go to a bank to get a loan or build their credit. So what we do is we bring that partner in and says, hey, integrate with our payment engine. So now those two things are fully integrated, which means that, like Franz mentioned, when you as a customer walk into a store and you pick your items and you go pay, that payment portion of it, that payment engine that we are, is already integrated with the solution. So when you complete the payment and it goes through our system, we go get an authorization and we bring that information back. At the end of the day, like Fran says, there's no getting information from one system and trying to reconcile it with another system manually. That is a waste of time, causes a lot of errors, and there's a lot of problems associated. Because it's fully integrated, at the end of the day, when you close, everything's already reconciled, fully reconciled, including the payment, including everything. The payment portion of it is rather simple, right? When the QR shows up, customer scans it, it opens up a payment page on their phone. And the payment page is going to say, give me your name, put in your credit card information on your own phone, on the customer's own phone. If you use your phone to make a payment in the past, your credit card information is already stored in there. Basically, what's going to happen is a little window is going to show up on your phone. It's going to say, these are the cards that you have saved in your browser. Do you want to use one of them? And all you do is tap on one, and all the information of that credit card is populated into the payment form. Remember, that information is encrypted. It's secure. What is being shown in the screen is not what's saved in your phone. In your phone, what you have is a token. So if somebody steals your phone, there's nothing of value in there. Once that information is filled out in the form, it's sent to us. And again, merchant never sees that information. We are a PCI, which means a secure payment provider in the industry. We encrypt and tokenize everything, very secure. And we provide a lot of security around the payment. Imagine you having to enter your own credit card into your own phone, and that information is stored as a token, has no value. So you had to either put in a PIN to open up your phone, or use some biometrics to open up your phone. And then that information is stored as a token. Before, you used to hand over a piece of plastic with all your credit card information on the credit card, your account number, your expiration date, the security code, over to somebody who typically would go somewhere and swipe or dip or tap. That's the old way of doing it. This is a much more secure way of taking payments. So at the end of the day, we're the payments engine, and on the front, we'll have different solutions or different solution providers like Tillmate that address a specific need in the market. And this specific need that Tillmate addresses is for small and medium merchants that manage inventory. It's a phenomenal solution, very powerful, fully baked with PowerTranz and ready to go.
Yeah, I think for a lot of business owners watching this, I think this is a clear understanding and description of where we all need to go, because online payments is the way forward, as I have seen in the Google Trends search engines, because a lot of people are going on Amazon.com, so your customers are familiar with online shopping. So when it comes to, because we had this conversation earlier and we may repeat it, so I think we all need to hear this again. we're talking about shifting from managing cash and managing exercise books and a pen and paper. Tillmate auto generates a profit and loss report that syncs with programs like QuickBooks. And it sounds great, but there's a lot of old school thinking of, distrust within financial organizations and technology. So when it comes to merchants watching this from the Caribbean, um, you know, how does them managing stuff on their phones versus managing stuff on their exercise books, how does that change their chances when they need to, let's say, get a business loan? So, Franz, give us some insight in your experience.
Well, it's funny you should ask that because in my previous startup we were trying to work with delivery businesses, and we've been hearing this problem about not using digital tools because we were asking for their inventory to put on our website to then sell and deliver. So I resisted Tillmate for a long time because I thought it would be hard to get businesses to go from pen and paper to digital tools because they're kind of stuck in that old way and, as you said, distrust with tech and stuff like that. But that has not been the case. They've been fully embracing of all the technology, young and old, because, especially in the region, everyone's on WhatsApp, which is technology. Everyone's on Facebook and Instagram. You're posting your kids. So to have your business in it, it's really not as sensitive as where you live and your kids and where they go to school and stuff like that. So it hasn't been hard. And then for financial services, what we're trying to do now, as I mentioned to Eldred several times, is to start talking to the banks, because one of the things we want to have in our marketing is not just use Tillmate because you become more attractive to banks. We would like to bring the banks to the table. So at some point we would love to have, like a goal in there. So if you've opted in to share your sales and stuff with a bank, you'd be able to see, okay, two more months and you may qualify for this loan, or you're $1 million away from qualifying for that financial product or whatever it might be. So you don't have to actually download a report and walk into a bank and knock on the door. We want to bring the banks in the system, so it kind of bridges the capital, because they're looking to lend to more small business mom and pop shops. For example, in Jamaica, you're looking at over 400,000 businesses. Over 80% of them are small and micro and medium-sized businesses. I think about almost 80% of them are not using digital tools, according to a study by a local institution. So what you have is the banks, they're all competing for the same large customer. So you have the same customers that got a loan, paid it back, get another one, keep getting, and there you have 6-7 banks competing for that one customer, when the largest part of the economy, the part that hires the most people, generates the most GDP, the small and medium-sized businesses are left out. So, and again, if you ask any business, that's their number one problem: access to capital. I think before you mentioned inheriting businesses, and a staggering amount of businesses close when the kids don't want it. So they don't even know they can sell the business, because even if they try, the buyer is so frustrated with what's going on. I've had an attorney was looking for small businesses to buy, and when they ask the business to provide financials, it's like a PDF document, and we're like, how do we know this is true? They could have just put anything in this. It's going to cost so much money to then go in their books and documenting everything just to figure out after 6 months that you don't want to buy this business. So the benefits in terms of accessing to not just loans and insurance, but investors and acquisitions, just to digitize your business, it puts you in that conversation. So we haven't had much problem convincing business to digitize. All we're doing now is talking to the banks to again bring them in the ecosystem so they can both talk to each other within it.
Wow, that's so promising to hear. And that point you made about inheriting businesses and not being, I guess, bank ready, because that would be having your structure that can just be handed over to somebody who wants to buy it. That's an amazing point that I didn't even think about. That's really cool. So there, as you mentioned, Franz, about informal businesses. I actually looked at a report that said it's about 5 billion untapped capital in the Caribbean. And it's a lot of folks who employ people as well. So when it comes to this e-commerce space, Eldred, how can we bridge that gap to make these informal businesses bank ready?
Well, Pauline, like Franz said, this is a data-driven solution, and what we're trying to do here is make these merchants data intelligent merchants. What does that mean? When, as a merchant, you have real-time inventory in your system that you at any given time can pull and say, this is what I got, this is what I sold, this is what I have. Go one step further. Imagine understanding the cost of goods sold. Imagine understanding the margins that you make out of one product versus another, and being able to make smart decisions based on what do I want to sell and how do I price it properly in order to maximize my margins. Once you start doing that kind of stuff across your entire business, you come across to a financial institution as a data intelligent merchant. You understand your business, you understand margins, you understand cost of goods sold. You add another layer on top of that, and that this takes it to a completely different conversation. Because like Franz said, imagine a business trying to go buy you and you give them a PDF with financial data. How do they know it's accurate? How do they know that you just didn't make that information up? The way you know is because since PowerTranz is embedded as a payment engine into this solution, the reports that you get from a financial perspective, the amount of transactions that have come through, the amount of money that you've made, the amount of money that has been deposited in your account, is coming from an independent, secure financial organization, and that's PowerTranz. So you can go into PowerTranz as part of the solution and pull financials. You're going to have two sets of reports, essentially. One from Tillmate that will tell you everything that you have within your business, your inventory, your cost of goods sold, how much profit are you making, how much is the cost of operating, all that stuff with related to your business. You're going to be able to pull reports out of the Tillmate. But if you want financial transactions, on this date, what transaction came through for what amount in what currency. You'll be able to pull reports and understand how much money is the business generating. That independence of financial data is critical. So when you walk into a bank and you say, not only do I understand I'm data intelligent, my business, I understand my business, but I also have financial information from a third party, which is PowerTranz, and we know it's accurate and secure.
Thank you so much for that, Eldred. We have one more minute, Franz, and I want to ask you the final question because I like to end these live shows on a positive note. Because you're in the trenches, where do you see the Caribbean when it comes to merchants in the next 3 years, adoption in terms of e-commerce in the Caribbean, and what role do you think Tillmate will play in that future?
Well, we hope we solve their number one problem over the next 3 to 5 years. As you mentioned, there's a report, and this is just the Caribbean, I think, not even Latin America. Over 5 billion US is literally out there for businesses, but they can't access it. And then, it's expensive for the banks to go out and try to talk to individual mom and pop shops, trying to lend them $10,000. I think in the US with Square, their number one business is not transaction fees or selling POS hardware. It is now financial services, because they said their competitor in lending money to a business is not the bank anymore. It's mom and dad and the cousin, because based on all the data they have, and they have the merchant's bank account and everything, they can deploy 500 US. They can deploy 5,000 US on a Friday evening, just like that. And because they have all of this data, the loan is just sitting there until they need it. You don't have to go to a bank, stand in a line, wait 3 weeks. So everything you hear about the regional goals and growing and how AI is gonna eat up industries and stuff, We believe if we have a region where all the businesses are online, not necessarily, oh, we have a website, because online retail, like a website, is 5% of retail across the region. The other 95% of retail is offline, as in people walking into a store. So if we're able to digitize the majority of those businesses and bring the banks to those conversations so they can both communicate, grow, pay those loans back, grow some more. And remember again, is when that money is deployed to a business, the bank still has access to um to advise them, to double check, to help them get to that next level, eventually get acquired or whatever the case may be. So we believe that we could be the single biggest driver of economic development once we get, again, as many businesses as possible using it and staying on it. And once we get the financial institutions helping to nurture these businesses as they grow. So that's where we see Tillmate going in the next 3 to 5 years. With the help of PowerTranz, of course, that's an important partner. We've baked them in. If you're using Tillmate and accepting cash, it doesn't work the same way, because how do we know you accepted $1 million in cash today? It might never get to the bank. But the more digital payments you use, it's synced with everything you buy. It's not just transaction data. The bank can see what was purchased, how much, where, when, by who, and that goes straight to your bank account, which helps with, as Eldred was saying, a more complete look of your business. And again, as I said, hopefully just growth through partnerships and building the right platform to do that.
Thank you so much, Franz. And on that note, I want to thank you again to Eldred Garcia from PowerTranz, as well as Franz Weathers from Tillmate, for joining us today as we discuss how to run your Caribbean shop smarter with Tillmate. If you like Lisa and you're joining us from LinkedIn, don't forget to like us and subscribe so you will be notified on our next live show. So thanks again for joining us, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye, everyone.